thousands of years, humanity has searched for answers to the eternal questions of who am I and why am I here? Civilizations have risen and fallen, religions have flourished, philosophies have shaped the course of history. Yet the deepest human quest remains unchanged, to discover our true nature and purpose. In ancient Greece, Socrates echoed the timeless wisdom of Delphi, know thyself, while in Asia Lao Tzu said, one who knows others is clever, but one who knows himself is enlightened. The advent of Shumaji Nimla Devi marked a fundamental turning point. For the very first time, millions have experienced the direct realization of the self, not as a philosophy or a belief, but as a living experience, en masse. Today, as our world faces unprecedented technological, environmental, and moral challenges, another question is being asked, and rightly so. Is our human intelligence alone enough to positively shape our future, or must it be guided by deeper wisdom? The video presentation that we're about to see takes us on a journey through a great literary masterpiece, The Conference of the Birds, from the Persian mystic Farid al-Din Attar of Nishapur. Written over 8 centuries ago, Attar's extraordinary tale follows a community of birds on an epic journey. Together they cross 7 symbolic valleys to discover that what they seek is much closer than they thought. Today this ancient tale speaks with renewed relevance about self-knowledge and collective wisdom. As we stand at the threshold of a new era, you're invited to rediscover a timeless truth, that the greatest journey we will ever undertake is the journey towards ourselves. And so our story begins.
In the city of birds, a feather was found which belonged to no one there. Yet its glory and beauty dazzled all eyes, and its sight stirred many questions. The birds gathered in the town square to discuss the matter. Who does this feather belong to? Asked the nightingale. Where does its owner dwell? Said the peacock. Can he be seen? Asked another. But their questions were in vain, as no one had any answers. The divine hoopoe bird then announced, I saw this same feather on the Seymour's radiant breast on top of Mount Gough. This king is of our kind, but infinitely more glorious and fair, beyond all speech and fancy. If one feather enchants our hearts so deeply, what will its owner's vision do to the soul? There was silence, deep thought, and then more questions from the gathered birds. Why have I not seen him? How have I lived without him? Shall I stay, or can we go to seek him? But who saw each that bird's foot had a chain forged of mortal love, hypocritical piety, greed, thirst of power, craving for comfort, pride, sorrow, or fear. These were delaying all possibility of a journey to find the Seymour. So Hoopoe cried out, Break these chains! And all the birds agreed. Thus the great journey to Gough could begin, although no one really knew what they wanted to find at the end. The journey was to the highest peaks, though not peaks that the eye could see. Hoopoe, crowned with truth, led the way, calling the flock of birds onwards through the 7 valleys of quest, love, knowledge, detachment, unity, bewilderment, and annihilation. Remarkably, Attar had traced this inner path with an insight that comes close to what we know today through Sahaja Yoga, but lacking the clarity and elegance of Shimataji's teachings on the subtle system and the spiritual journey. In this slide, quest recalls pure desire, knowledge echoes pure attention, Annihilation is freedom from ego and all conditioning, and unity is oneness with the all-pervading divine power. What Attar expressed through poetry has now become a living experience through the collective awakening of the Kundalini. Thus, the birds of Attar's stories are no longer characters in a poem. They are us, modern humans. And so the journey to Mount Gough continues.
The seven valleys began with quest, when the light of awareness touched the bird's heart, with a desire carrying them onward toward unity. The second valley was love, a force beyond human reason that carried them forward in their search for the Seymour. In the third valley of knowledge, they understood the limitation of worldly knowledge and were even more eager to know the Seymour. In the fourth valley of detachment, they let go of mundane desires, freeing themselves from all their attachment and fears, facing themselves. In the fifth valley of unity, they realized that everything is oneness with the all-pervading power. In the sixth valley of bewilderment, they were in awe and wondered, "Who am I?" Through this question, they reached a deeper reflection within. And finally, through the seventh valley of annihilation, every chain fell away. The self dissolved into the universe and they rose free, moving closer to the truth. Some of the birds, unable to make it through every valley, were sadly left behind. Those who came through the seven valleys then set off toward the peak of Gough to finally meet the Seymour.
When they reached the summit of Mount Gough, the bearers were surprised to see a mirror, not merely as a poetic symbol, but as a reflective instrument. Before this divine mirror, the mirror of the Sahasrara, they realized that the Seymour they had been seeking in the outside world was nothing other than a manifestation of their own collective being. This symbolic collective of 30 birds who had completed the journey were C meaning 30 and Mo meaning bird. Their individual identities had dissolved and they realized that each one of them was a manifestation of a reality greater than themselves, the self. The same archetype that Jung, centuries later, would describe as the wholeness that unites the fragmented dimensions of human consciousness. Attar brought this archetype to life through literature and epic poetry. What he offered was a mystical inner path and proclamation towards a new awareness, but without revealing the mechanism or process through which this transformation could be realized or embodied. From becoming aware of a truth, knowing it through direct experience, and ultimately becoming it collectively, there was a gap of centuries. Today, through the living experience made possible by the awakening of Mother Kundalini, Sahaja Yoga carries this historical and archetypal awareness into the realm of being and becoming. Yet, reaching the destination doesn't mean the end of the journey. Every Seymour who attains self-awareness through self-realization can become the source of countless other Seymours, elevating the collective consciousness of humanity toward the summit of Mount Gough and the realm of transcendent consciousness.
This timeless story of Seymour tells much more than a quest for a mythical bird. It reveals the eternal journey of humanity towards the discovery of its own highest self. Through every valley, trial, and act of surrender, the birds gradually awakened to a higher consciousness until they discovered that the truth they had been seeking had always lived within themselves. This is the first great teaching of the Seymour, the journey from the individual self to the universal self. where separation gives way to oneness and knowledge is transformed into living awareness. The symbolic ascent towards Mount Hof, the cosmic mountain at the heart of Persian mystical tradition, finds living expression today through the experience of self-realization. This is the second great teaching of the Simurgh, that the highest truth is not merely to be understood, but to be experienced. By the grace of Her Holiness Srimati Nirmala Devi, who opened the Sarastra for humanity, millions of people have discovered this awakening of the spirit and the living reality of collective consciousness. Beyond the divisions of culture, religion, and ideology, self-realization invites humanity to rediscover its common origin and its shared spiritual destiny. This is where enlightened collective wisdom should come into play for humanity through collective awareness and oneness. Humanity's long spiritual seeking is not the search for another world, but the rediscovery of the divine presence and intelligence within ourselves, for the benefit of the beautiful world we already live in, to experience heaven on earth. As the birds offered reverence to the Simurgh, we too offer our deepest gratitude at the lotus feet of our Divine Mother, Her Holiness Srimati Nirmala Devi, to the one whose boundless compassion has made the experience of mass self-realization a living reality and has given life to thousands of years of spiritual scripture and prophecy. Jai Shri Mataji.